Hello, my name's Tim. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking to you about the top 10 books I read in 2023. And when I say the top 10 books, I mean the top 10 and a bit, because I kind of cheated a bit. But hey, who cares? It's my list. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe. Really appreciate it. But anyway, this list of 10-ish books are my 5-star reads. I did have 5 separate graphic novels, and I'm going to separate those out into a different list because I think comics and graphic novels and books are a bit different mediums, and I appreciate them in different ways. You know, most graphic novels you can kind of read in 1, maybe 2 sittings, whilst a novel you kind of ingest and it just sits with you. Also, in terms of this list, I'm not going to be doing it in order of favourite to least favourite because these are all 5 stars and these are all my favourite. I'm going to go from the order that I read them throughout the year. So I'm going to start with the first one that I read in the year all the way through to the last one that I read in the year. All right? I'm saying that's okay with you, but you haven't got a choice. I'm going to do it anyway. So the first book that, number 1, is As You Wish by Cary Elwes, The Making of the Princess Bride. So I haven't got a physical copy with me because I lent it to my mum. This was, I think it was the first book I read in 2023, and I think without that, enjoying it so much, it probably wouldn't have kicked me on to read as many books as I have done, because I've read more books this year than I ever have as an adult, that's for sure. And The Princess Bride is a film that is very important to me because I have a really key memory of watching it when I was in my teenage years, and my mum said, I think you'd really like this film. And I was like, but it's called The Princess Bride? In my mind, it was The Princess Diaries with Anne Hathaway. That's what I had in my mind. And then this film started, and I went, oh, look, it's the guy from The Wonder Years. I used to watch that as a kid. Oh, look, it's Columbo. I used to watch that as a kid. Oh, look, it's the Cary Elwes, the guy from Robin Hood Men in Tights. I used to watch that as a kid. Oh, look, it's Robin Wright. Jenny from Forrest Gump. I used to watch that as a kid. Oh, look, it's Mandy Patinkin. Oh, he was in Law and Order. I used to watch that as a kid. Oh, look, it's Christopher Guest from This Is Spinal Tap. I used to watch that as a kid. Oh, it's Andre the Giant. I used to watch wrestling as a kid. Oh, it's Billy Crystal from Michael's. I used to watch that as a kid. And it was just my childhood on screen. And the story was beautiful and wonderful. And I love the fact that it is a pastiche, but it is with a loving heart. And it's quite hard to describe to people. And then I made my wife watch it, and she had none of those reactions because she didn't watch any of the same stuff that I did growing up as a kid. And she was just like, it's fine. But anyway, this book written by Cary Elwes with help, it does say who helps him, but I can't remember who that is just about how they made the film and how none of them knew it was going to be a cult classic. No one knows what that is. How working with Rob Reiner, how he got the role, how they filmed. They did a lot of filming in Shepperton, which is near where I live, Shepperton Studios, and also they did lots of filming just in the UK generally. All the outdoors stuff. But for me, I enjoy the behind the scenes stuff of filmmaking. I enjoy anecdotes. I really enjoyed the anecdotes. But a key thing was just how Andre the Giant was at the time probably the most famous person in the world. And so many stories were about him just being unlike anyone on earth. You know, there's a story of him going and drinking way too much, and he couldn't get a taxi because he couldn't fit in any of the taxis. Usually he has a special van that comes to pick him up. And he couldn't fit in any taxis, so he fell asleep in the bar at the hotel, and no one could move him at the Dorchester, like one of the finest hotels in London. So they just put ropes around him and then let him wake up in his own period of time. Or how he was so big that at school he couldn't get to school because he was too big for the minibus. So he needed a convertible. And his neighbour, who just bought a farm, had a convertible car. And his neighbour was Samuel Beckett. What Samuel Beckett drove Andre the Giant to school? Just insane. The man had the most incredible life. So anyway, and that was number 1, definitely. The next one is The Kingdom by Jess Rothenberg. Let's put it there so you get a bit more light. This, I think, was the second or third book I read. Literally, January was such a good reading month. This is Disney Parks meets Westworld. So this is about Disney princesses. They're not Disney, but they're princesses. Fantasists. Half human, half android princesses. And there's a mystery. There's a bit about AI and what that means. There's a bit about memory. There's a bit about consciousness and what makes humanity. Also, I love how time is played with in this. You jump back and forward in time, as there is a trial going on, and so you're kind of doing trial and going back. There are some things that I really, really liked about this, with some of the world building of the park. Not only the park, but also the world. So the park, it says here, the September of the Dusky Sparrow, because all of the months and years for these princesses are like seasons in, like, it's the 50th anniversary year, just this not realness of their world. And then Anna, who is the main princess in the story, how she discovers this real world. Riveting as well. So I love the world building, I love the tension, I love the way it jumped in time, I love that kind of thrillery aspects to it. But, it was just so good. Now the next is another book I don't have, because I borrowed it from the library, and it is Layla and the Blue Fox by Kieran Millward Hargrave. And this is a book about two things. One is about a fox on a migration halfway across Canada, one of the longest migrations tracked. This fox can cross barriers, can cross borders, has no idea on the human politics of the world. It is just looking for warmth, it's just looking for food, it's just looking for survival. Then we have Layla. Layla is, I think she's a teenage girl, and she has some of the same worries as the fox. She's looking for a home, she's looking for food, she's looking for warmth, but she has a passport. She is Syrian and is not allowed to go across borders. She's not allowed to travel as the fox does. And her relationship with her mum has left Syria. She left Layla in Syria a few years ago, I'm not sure off the top of my head, to go work in science. And Layla has such an interesting dynamic with her mum, where she loves her, but she also kind of hates her. And she's forgiven her, but she's not forgotten what she did. But she also kind of hasn't really forgiven her, and she hasn't forgiven herself. I love the characters that they're with on this journey. There's another scientist and her daughter. Like, the characters are so well-rounded that they could be the stars of their own book, and it would still be a very, very riveting book. They all have their own stuff going on. But really interesting idea on why pieces of paper stop us going from one place to another, when actually we are human beings and we are beyond borders. Really, really enjoyed it. And it won a award. It's like the Whitbread Nature Award or something. Thoroughly deserved. Yeah, so that was number 3. Number 4 is by the same author, because you know what? It's my list and I get to cheat. Some people be like, only one author per list or one series. I don't care about that. This is In the Shadow of the Wolf Queen. This is book 1 in the Geomancer trilogy. This is... all of Kieran's books have been 5 stars from me. This is like a 6 star. This is beyond good. This is beyond... I don't understand why not every single person in the world has not read this book. It's about Isolde, Isolde. This is a world of magic. Sorry, I just opened it and just immediately wanted to start reading again. This is a world of nature magic. This is about druidic magic. It's about trees. It's about the world itself. This is about earth and wood, and how nature moves slowly but gets where it needs to be. Combined with battling against that is humanity who is aggressive and looking to control nature and looking to expand an empire. And in the middle of it is Isolde and her sister. Isolde is ordinary. She has no magic powers in this world. She's just trying to get by. And I really like the fact that she doesn't have any magic powers in this. Her sister can talk to trees, and trees talk to her. So now they live in a stone hut, because otherwise her sister just heard the screams of the dead trees. So they burn peat to keep warm. And then, so I love the nature magic here. The next thing is the human side, and the Wolf Queen herself is called Seren, but that's not her original name. Whenever she invades a country, she takes on a name that is local to that region. She picks and chooses from their culture things that she likes, so that they are then more accepting of the other bits of culture that she's brought in. It's not a pure invasion, it's like an absorption into her empire, and she takes a lot of it personally, so she uses the local language. And then Isolde meets other people who've come from other regions and finds out that Seren, the Wolf Queen, has kind of absorbed their magic as well. Their culture, and I really enjoyed that aspect of this. And then you've got the plot itself is a journey as Isolde and the Wolf Queen, and there's some other characters doing some other stuff separately. Go on a journey to try and find an answer to a problem that they both face. And they meet along the way as they travel up through the world, which is Britain, but it's like a magical nature Britain. I love that. And the plot ends with a huge revelation in that book 2 in this, whenever it comes out, please let it come out very, very soon, is going to be in a different place, physically, emotionally, magically, spiritually. Oh, it was just so good. This was so good. Sorry, I'm getting into it. Next thing, book number 5 was Fire and Blood by George R.R. Martin. This was borrowed from my brother-in-law, so thank you very much. This is a history of the Targaryens, a fictional people in a fictional land, but it's a history book. Lots of people didn't like this when it came out because it's not Winds of Winter. I don't care. This is fantastic. This is so good. George R.R. Martin is now more famously known for not writing than he is writing. But when he does put fat finger to old 80s keyboard that he uses to type everything on, he produces stuff like this. You can have 2 pages describing a king from hundreds of years ago in a fictional land. And in 2 pages, he gives you more than some whole books that I've read this year. You get to see the machinations of the Targaryen family, of those surrounding them, and how you see families rising, families falling, due to stupid people doing stupid things, which you have seen happen in the real world so often. And this is only part 1, supposedly, because we haven't got anywhere near Daenerys at this point. And the show, this is being turned into House of the Dragon, which I watched 2 episodes on a plane, and I was like, when I fly back on holiday, I'm going to watch the rest of it. And they've taken it off. So I haven't watched the show yet, but if it's anything like this, it's so good. It was so good. Please write more, George. I would appreciate it. Right, now I'm going to do my first bit of cheating. Because I've got 2 books that I read before going on holiday to Disneyland in California. The first was Maps of the Disney Parks. This is one that opens like Jurassic Park. Na, na, na. And this was exquisite because I love Disneyland. I love the original Disneyland. It's just so good. and I love seeing how it's changed over time, and I love maps. I love the image representation of, you know, all the different things that they have in the parks. I love the formatting of this great big book. It's just beautiful, beautiful, beautiful to read. You know, different promotional art and things like that. Plus, there was a bit of history in the parks as well, and history and how it put together. And that follows on to this, Walt Disney's Disneyland. This is by Chris Nichols, and this is a history of Disneyland, covering from before its origins up to, yeah, it says when this was written, so 2018. This book's so heavy. If you want to know about Disneyland, this is the book to read. This is the book to read. It's full of history on how Walt wanted to put it together, but also it's full of tremendous photography. This is like a coffee table book, so a lot of it is photography, but actually I found the writing really, really interesting and really engaging. And then going to Disneyland and seeing the park and knowing the history of it, and then we went on a tour of the studio, which was incredible. This was such a joy to read. That there he is. There's Walt at the base of the castle at the end. So that was my first cheat. The next isn't a cheat, honest. Is an audiobook I listened to, which was The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe by C.S. Lewis. So I listened to the whole Chronicles of Narnia series, and I think overall pretty good, some better than others, but for me, The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe is the best by a long, long way. If you want to read them all, either on your own or with your children, that's fine. If you just want to read that one, I think you have not missed out on much. Compared to the goodness of The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe is this big, and the goodness of the rest are like that big. You know what I mean? Maybe that big. It's just so full of wonder and magic. And one thing I loved about it, really liked about it, was the voice that C.S. Lewis used in telling the story. You feel like you are being told the story. You feel like you are sitting by a campfire with an elderly figure full of wells of wisdom telling you about this fanciful land. I really enjoyed that aspect of it. I think listening to the audiobooks where they had like Shakespearean actors everywhere, you know, Kenneth Branagh, Patrick Stewart, Derek Jacobi, you know, just brilliant to listen to, and I really enjoyed it. But for me, Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe was the best by far. Yes, the Jesus stuff is quite obvious, but it's more obvious than other books. And I think the message is of just being willing to make sacrifices and do the best for other people is a good message, religious or not. Right, now I'm going to cheat again. So a few years ago, I read a book called, what was the first one called? A Hero Born, that's it. The first book in a series called The Legends of the Condor Heroes. And so far this year, I've read Volume 2, A Bond Undone, and Volume 3, A Snake Lies Waiting. These are by Jin Yong, not his real name. These were written in the 50s in China, and, you know, a Chinese Lord of the Rings, the most widely read Chinese writer, a stirring epic. You've got stuff from, I'm reading I've just started the fourth one, the last one called A Heart Divided. But these two are both 5 stars from me. I would say this one is better, probably, but this one is still also really, really good. What this is about big epic battles across China in, I want to say 1200 kind of times. Genghis Khan is about to invade. That's kind of the big overarching, like, this is coming. And this is all about the machinations of ancient kung fu masters as they vie for control. And Guo Jing, who is a man who is very dumb but very honourable and a very good student, even though he is very dumb. To as he learns about kung fu and learns kung fu in all different ways from all different masters, and him and his beloved partner Lotus Huang are kind of swept up in this huge story of kung fu masters going up against each other. This one is especially focused on trying to find something called the Nine Yin Manual, where it teaches them unspeakable techniques, and it's full of kung fu. And the way they describe the kung fu is merely like he does steps 6 to 8 of dragon taming palm, and she responds with crane of flying kicks, something like that. Just really language that allows you to fill in the gaps, and it means it can be as cinematic as you want in your head, and it's so good. There's tons of characters of all different names, and people lie and people cheat. There's fake out deaths, there's fights on pirate ships that are sinking and also on fire. It's about honor, it's about justice, it's about love. It's also got some like pretty zany humor in it. And I'm going into the last one, and I have no idea what's going to happen, and I'm really excited to finish it. Hopefully I'll finish it this year, but we're running out of time. So yeah, I'm putting those in together because they're all one story, and they are definitely all one story. You know, sometimes you read books and their sequels, and like there's a time gap or whatever. The time gap between these books are a second, you know. So that's why usually I spread out a series, but these ones I'm reading them quite close together, because the difference between reading book 1 and book 2, I was like, wait, it's already in the middle of a fight. What's going on? Who's this? You know, took me a while to pick it up. So next I'm going to cheat again and put 2 poetry collections in that I read. I read When We Were Very Young and Now We Are 6 by A.A. Milne. This is a copy that my mum bought my dad in 1986, and then I wrote my name in it because I'm an idiot. And this is a copy that we bought to read to our kids, and we haven't read them yet, but this has got beautiful colour illustrations. I just dropped it. This one's got black and white illustrations, but that's because it's a lot older. One moment. There we go. Right. These are beautiful. This poetry collections are about the charm of living life through a child's eye. This is about what Christopher Robin sees, what he thinks, what's important to him, and it's just, here we go. This is one of my favourite poems. Happiness. John had a great big waterproof boots on. John had a great big waterproof hat. John had a great big waterproof Macintosh, and that, said John, is that. And that poem's called Happiness. Just beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Though, reading them now, there is a bit of a questionable on putting your child and their thoughts and feelings and what happens to them at the forefront of your reading, your writing that you're doing. The child does not elect to be in that. It's a bit questionable. I'm not entirely happy with it, but it did give me these beautiful poems to read, and the Winnie the Pooh books and stories and the films and everything. So, and they're some of my favourites. So that's another 2 things I've combined. And the last thing, so far, in this very long video actually, is Ready Player 2 by Ernest Cline. This won't be a popular one because everyone seems to hate this book. This is the book that's as big as my head. What I loved about this book is how Wade Watts is not a good guy in this, because he wasn't really a good guy in the first one, but he won and he was the underdog, so we inherently liked him. While in Ready Player 2, he's not the underdog anymore. He's the overdog. He's the big fish in a small pond, and the small pond is the world, and he is the biggest fish. He has power, but he still has all of those insecurities of that kid playing on the Oasis in an old minivan beat up in the stacks in Columbus. But he has the power and the money and the influence to do stuff about it, but he's still that insecure kid. And I really enjoyed how they looked at that. This book looked at that. And the stuff that Wade does is not good. A lot of it is not good. And then, the plot happens. And the plot is similar to Ready Player One, because that's kind of what you expect from a book like this, I would say. And it's not just like poking you, going, hey, do you remember this? Hey, do you remember this? Hey, do you remember this? That's really good. Because one of the key challenges of this is something completely fictional. But it's really important to Wade. And it's really important to his sense of nostalgia and him growing up. So you see it from the character's perspective as well. I thought the Oasis itself, the world, is still so imaginative. And the coolest things happen all the time. And even though it's about, 80s films and music, it's not just about games like the first one is. And the references I don't get as well, because I don't know these things as well. I still really, really like the book. And I really, really liked what the writer did with Wade Watts as a character, because that's who a lot of us would be like if we had all that, especially if we had those major insecurities of being basically man-children, which is what Wade is. He's a man-child, and now he's everything. And he uses that to look at James Halliday, who is like the genius inventor of the Oasis from the first book, and he has an unrequited love, and that's so romantic and idealized in the first book. And in the second book, you realize that's not unrequited love. That's his best friend's wife, and that's not good. That is not something that adults do. That is not something that friends do to each other. And Wade Watts is so close to getting there, and his friends eventually pull him back. So my top 10 books ended up being 13 books. So not too bad. Anyway, if you've read any of these books, please let me know. Please give this video a like. Please give a subscribe. Every subscribe helps. Honestly, we've hit 50, and as people, it's really hard not to look at other people's numbers, and they're at 10 times that. And I hope this video reaches more people. I know it's very long, but I've really enjoyed putting this together. I've really enjoyed looking at the books I've read. I've read so many good books this year. I've just read so many books this year. So I'm going to do a video on my top 5 comics that I've read, and probably a video on the top books I've read to my kids as well. So let me know if you've read any of these. Let me know what your top 10 books are, and I'll reply in the comments. Anyway, thanks everyone, and get out of my house!